To come on stream this afternoon. Hi, it's Friday at long last. The weekend awaits and it might even be sunny. Hi there. Well, today we're going to talk about wild camping. What does that mean? Where is it? What can you do? What's illegal? What's sensible? What's safe? And that's our subject that I've been asked to talk about today, wild camping. Who knows what wild camping is? Well, campsite camping is perhaps what you might call tame camping, when you know where you're staying, everything's all laid on for you. You go and stay on a nice, clean, organised campsite. You pays your money and takes your choice, and it's all set out for you. You know, there's a place to park, there are loos and showers, and maybe there's a shop and a cafe and other campers, and it's all beautifully groomed and manicured. That's wild camping. The opposite. That's what we would call manicured, groomed, tame camping. Now, wild camping is the exact opposite thing. Wild camping is when you stay somewhere where maybe no one's even stayed before, where there are no particular facilities, where you literally pitch up camp and you stay there. And I think there's room for both. Neither thing's wrong, but wild camping can be really fun. And it's cost effective, of course. The fact that no one stayed there before, or that there's no facilities, means it's not going to cost you anything. So if you're doing a really long trip, it can help keep the cost down to do at least some wild camping. Now, there's a common misconception that just parking anywhere and staying for the night is illegal. Hi there, Jim. Nice to see you. I shall email you in a minute. Yes, we'd love to fit you a solar panel. That'd be awesome. Some people think that staying in your camper van just on a residential street or in a car park or parked in the woods or somewhere like that is illegal. Well, do you know, apart from the few places where local bylaws prohibit it, it absolutely isn't. Staying where you want to stay is completely permissible, certainly in the UK and throughout most of Europe as well. I know because I've done lots of it, and it's great fun. It's very freeing to be able to say, wow, this looks like a nice little town. Oh, look, there's a baker's or boulangerie or wherever it might be you're staying. Find somewhere nice, maybe next to the village green, park up and camp for the night. You know, there's an old adage, take nothing but photographs and leave nothing but footprints. Hi there, Kyle. If that's you, if you take nothing but photos and leave nothing but footprints, you're not going to upset anybody. And I would say generally, don't quote me on this, but my experience of staying in the UK is as long as you arrive in the evening and keep yourself to yourself, don't make a big noise, big mess or a big fuss, and go in the morning, no one's ever so much as asked me a single word. Not at all. Been really, really easy. Now, as soon as you go over to France, you'll find the French and now increasingly the Spanish are into what they call aires de service. You know, the French system is that the towns are run by an elected mayor, and once you've elected that mayor, they have a lot of autonomy, and a lot of forward-thinking mayors will build a nice parking area for campers out of town. And you can stay there freely normally or for a very small amount of money. Sometimes they even have electric hookup, water, place to empty your loo, nice hard standing. And there's no cost, and it's sort of semi-wild camping. You can stay there and enjoy the facilities, and of course their hope is you're going to come and maybe eat in a restaurant or buy some things in the town, take in the sights and add to their local economy. But we've done the really wild sort as well. I mean, I remember staying down on Dartmoor with all the children, and in the morning the wild little horses, the wild ponies came and were keen to see us and keen to see the kids and be stroked and fed things. And what a great night it was. Really peaceful, really quiet. There are those who say, well, is it dangerous? You know, is there a risk? Well, you know, there's a risk walking down the road, isn't there? So I can't say there's no risk. All I can say is personally, I'm always quite careful where I stay. There have been times when I've parked up, we've had our pasta, and I've said to Rebecca, do you know, I think I'll drive on. It just hasn't quite felt comfortable. Just the odd time. But mostly, you know, something looks like what it is. It looks nice, it looks calm and peaceful. We've stayed and we've never had so much as a moment's bother of any sort. Now, technical questions. If you're not on a campsite, what about power? What about water and all those things? Now, power, let's talk about our vehicles. I can answer questions about other people's, but talk about Sussex Campervan's vehicles. We're using a compressor-based fridge, which is very efficient. It gets very cold without much electricity, and it runs on 12-volt power supplied by the Campervan battery. Not the vehicle battery that starts the engine, but the leisure battery. When it's running, it pulls just over 3 amps. And of course, like any fridge, it cuts in and out depending on when you open the door. So you should certainly get 2 or 3 days with the fridge running without starting your engine without any problems. Now, if you go for the solar panel option, which is increasingly popular, I mean, again, let me talk about our ones. We're fitting a 110 watt peak monocrystalline panel. That solar panel, broadly speaking, I mean, at 110 watts, you'd be about 8 amps. That would be strong sunlight. Let's say you haven't got that good of sunlight. Let's say you might average 4 amps. Well, if the fridge is only pulling 3, broadly speaking, the solar panel plus battery can keep up with the fridge. So with the solar panel option, really you could camp forever just running off the panel. Lighting, well, these days lighting tends to be LED, so it burns very little electricity. So really you can have your lights on all you want in terms of inside the campervan. That shouldn't be a problem. Of course, if you're not wild camping, if you're on electric hookup, well, it's no problem, is it? You're hooked up to mains power. But we're talking about when you're parked in a field or some beauty spot, miles away from anybody. What about gas? Well, if you're heating and cooking with gas, like you might be in one of our Sussex Campervan's vehicles, with our underslung LPG tank that holds 15 litres, you're going to be able to run that thermostatic gas heater for several days, cutting in and out, and do an awful lot of cooking. I mean, it's very hard to give you an exact amount because it depends what you're cooking and how long for and how warm you want to be. But let's just say it's not going to curtail your holiday. You can normally make the gas last at least as long as it takes between fill-ups of petrol or diesel, depending what vehicle you're in. So that's your heating and your cooking covered. What about water? Well, of course, if you're on a campsite, you plug in the hose pipe and fill up your fixed tank if you've got one. Or with one of our vehicles, you unplug the wheelie tank and just fill it up there at the tap. If you're out and about, there's water in places you wouldn't think, There's lots of drinking water outside taps. In France, you'll often find in a churchyard, they'll make provision for fresh water for watering flowers and things. That's normally good water to drink. You can always take some chlorination tablets if you want to, just to make sure. I have to say, we've never bothered. Public convenience facilities will often have outside taps and things you can safely use. You can often ask a cafe or restaurant owner if you can just fill up. And if you've got a little 25 litre tank like we're supplying, you're not asking somebody that much. You're not saying, can I fill my vast built-in tank? You're just asking for a couple of buckets of water, really, aren't you? So you can often fill up. What about the loo? What about emptying your chemical loo? What about that? Well, of course, if you're on a campsite, you've got an L-sand point, you can go and pour it down. But what about if you're not? And what about if you've all used the loo and it's getting a bit full? We have a bit of a strategy that unless we know the place really well, we tend to use our chemical loo rather than the public conveniences. And that's for a simple reason that we can detox our chemical loo within an inch of its life. And the public convenience, of course, let's just say standards vary. So you've got this chemical loo that needs emptying. Well, happily, the little cassette bit that's got the sewage in, which is all sealed, you can't see it, you can't smell it, is really subtle and a discreet thing. I've walked into many a public convenience just carrying my little suitcase, as it appears, walked into the toilet, flushed it, and poured it down, and no one so much as ever said a single word to me. So quite straightforward, actually, especially after you've done it the first couple of times. So while camping, I don't know if anyone's got any questions they particularly want to ask, but it's been a great thing for us, and we quite like, on a touring campervan holiday, we quite like the mixture. Book a bit of time on a really nice campsite, go and have a swim, go and enjoy the fellowship, the society. Or Marianne says, we'd love to do this around the west coast of Scotland. Absolutely, yes. The one thing I have heard, one or two of our clients who've got campervans and toured a lot around Scotland, the one thing I have heard is watch out for the midges. And make sure you take midgie nets and fly repellent and citronella candles and everything else. Hi there. Glenn's asking, what's the available payload to use when the vehicle's converted? That's a very good question. Depends on the vehicle. So with any vehicle, you'll have two weights. You've got what's called the GVW, the gross vehicle weight, or the plated weight, and that's the maximum weight you're allowed to carry. So that includes the occupants, any luggage, the fuel, and in the case of a camper van, any water, waste tanks, everything else. The maximum the thing can weigh standing on the road. Now on our NV200 camper cars, the UK supplied ones, that will be 2 tons. On the long wheelbase Manhattans and Paradises and the long wheelbase Transporter Caledonias, we'd be looking at 2.9, and on the shorter wheelbase generally 2.7 tons. So the big question is, what's the gross weight minus what the curb weight is? And the curb weight is what the thing weighs before you start driving it. So I'll tell you how to work it out. Say you take 2.9 tons on Vauxhall Vivaro or Renault Traffic built into a Manhattan or a Paradise. So 2.9 is your gross weight. That's the most the thing can weigh at any time. Now let's take off the weight of a tank of diesel. Perhaps, I don't know, if we've got about 80 litres, maybe take off 60 odd kilos. Let's take off some water, 25 more kilos, a bit of waste. So 100 kilos, say, of liquids. So 2.9, got 100 kilos of liquids. Our furniture, our bed thing with all its covers is about 85 kilos. The furniture is probably another 40. There's a leisure battery, that might be 15. You put it all together and you subtract them and you subtract the curb weight of the vehicle. So the curb weight on a Vivaro Traffic is about 1.5 tons. So 2.9 minus 1.5 is 1.4. Let's take off 100 kilograms of fluids, 1.3. The bed, the furniture, 1.2, 1.1, down to about a ton. So that's a ton gap between what it weighs and what it's allowed to weigh. Now, how much you allow for the people would rather depend on the people, if they're really diminutive people or if they're great lovers of pies. Well, I'll tell you what VOSA think, the vehicle licensing. They think you should allow 120 kilos per person. So that's on the heavier side. So if you've got a vehicle that can seat 4, 120, 240, 360, 480, so half a ton basically of people, and that would round numbers, that'd leave you a half ton of payload, wouldn't it? So if you can pack half a ton for your holiday, that's a serious booze cruise. Now, in all seriousness, there's generally plenty of spare weight, certainly in our conversions. Obviously, I can't speak for other people's, but the numbers might be fairly similar. We do try and keep the weight down of what we add. We use special lightweight plies. We're always thinking about weight and how we can reduce it. Because, even if we're not going to go over limit of the suspension and upset the police, there's fuel economy to consider as well. So we want to be able to drive around as efficiently, comfortably and cheaply as possible. So I hope that's a long-winded answer, isn't it? But you look at your gross weight, you look at your curb weight, and the difference between them is how much you've got for all your clobber, all your people and everything else put together. Marianne's asking, how much do our campervans start from? Now, you'll have to have a look at the website to see all the different options. We've got our price-fighting Ventura SE, which brand new starts from 30,000 or £5 less. And we do a late used one with a fresh conversion starting from 25. And then that one is our sort of price-fighting entry model. And then the other ones cost a little bit more or a lot more depending on what you have. With us, we're bespoke builders, so a lot of what we do is built to order. I mean, we've always got a dozen stock vehicles you can see and you can buy, but we build a lot to order. So, of course, you can cut your coat according to your cloth. You can go fancier on the upholstery, on the furniture, on the electrics, or you can keep it plainer. So give us a call and chat that one through, 01403 336369 or hello@sussexcampervans.com, of course, to get in touch. Do feel free to comment on this video even after it's no longer live. We'll still see them just like we would in email, and we'll be glad to interact with you. Well, I think I've had my 15 minutes and then some, haven't I? So I'd better go. But any more questions about wild camping or campervans in general, do feel free to put a comment in or give us a call on 01403 336369. And come over and see us in Horsham, why don't you? Come and see some campervans, come and have a chat, come and have a cappuccino, and we'd be delighted to show you around our place. Hey, come and see the coachworks, come and see the upholstery department where everyone's sewing and trimming seats, come and see the cabinet making, come and see the CNC machine running and everyone assembling furniture, come and see integration where it all comes together. We'd really love to welcome you. Anyway, you take care and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.